Hey guys, it's Rushy here. How are you all doing? Welcome back to the channel, and we have another controller that we're going over on the channel. It's just an overview, an opinion based on a few days of gameplay. I play Street Fighter 5, so that's the game of choice that I've tested the control pad on. So this is the PowerA Fightpad, 6-button Fightpad for the Xbox One. This version also works on PC, but I believe all versions should work on PC. It specifically says on the box that this one works for PC, and it does because I've tried it on PC. What to say about this control pad? So I just want to talk about my experiences with the controller, an honest opinion. It's not, I don't call it a review, it's just an honest opinion on what I think of the control pad. It feels fantastic. I can see why it's priced at £55 on Amazon, because it's very well built. I'm going to compare this to the Hori Fighting Commander in terms of layout and style, because that's kind of like its main competitor. So it's much better built than the Hori Fighting Commander. It feels good. It's got more weight to it. They deliberately added more weight to the control pad for that feel. So it sits nicely in the hands. You can see there, you know, I've got very long fingers, hands. So even though I've got big hands, it does sit fairly nice. So I'll switch to like I use the tip of my thumb now for inputs. It works much better for these circular D-pads. It still feels great. If I just sit back a little bit, it still feels nice. So yeah, it's got a matte finish. The D-pad itself has a matte finish. The buttons have a glossy the buttons on the face of the controller have a glossy finish, and then you can see there your shoulders. So we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail once we've covered the face of the control pad. Right, so I'm going to talk about the buttons first. So they're, yeah, as I mentioned, they're glossy in terms of finish. I would have preferred a matte finish, but I guess the gloss makes them sort of pop a little bit more on the pad. Sizing is fine, it's not an issue. I think they're a slight bit smaller than the Hori, but it's not a big deal. They're fine, they feel perfect. The feedback on them is great as well, so, you know, 10 out of 10 in terms of the buttons. I can't complain about the buttons on the face. The D-pad, it feels really good. You know, it's got movement. It's accurate in terms of, like, you know, as long as you're pressing the right direction, you will get your inputs nice. It's pretty clean. I really like the D-pad, but, and this is important to mention, I bought, while I was waiting for this, I bought the you see there, the 8-bit Do M30. The D-pad on this controller, in my opinion, is better than the D-pad on the PowerA. Now, just to explain why I feel that's the case, try and get them both on camera. The best way I can explain this is imagine you've got power steering on a car. The PowerA is like you've got power steering. You don't get much feedback from the D-pad. It's very fluid, it moves very fast. It doesn't take much of a button press for it to move, which it's not a bad thing, but it has a lot of movement. If you see there, from left to right, I know it's difficult to see on camera, it moves a lot. And it's recessed quite a bit into the controller as well, so it's sat quite deep in the pad itself, the recess. Now the 8-bit Do, it has a bit more stiff feedback. You know, you got to press it a bit more hard to get your input, which in my opinion feels better. It just gives you that little bit more accuracy in your button presses. You know exactly what you've done. You can apply the right amount of pressure to get the button press, but also it doesn't move as much. You can't see it here, but that really presses down, which to me feels a bit weird. This feels much better. It doesn't go down quite as much, but the feedback's just so nice. It's, you know, I can't knock PowerA for their control pad. It's fantastic, but if this D-pad was on this control pad, this is what we always have. This is the same problem we always seem to have. I'd say the PowerA would be 10 out of 10, but this, for me, I don't know, it just doesn't, I don't get confidence, which is really unfortunate with this. But it's not to say it's bad, that's just my personal preference. This one feels much better, and as I mentioned, this one sits much deeper in the recess. This one doesn't, so it sits a little higher, which to me feels more natural. But it's all personal preference. so I don't want to knock the PowerA too much. But other than that, you've got the shoulders, which we briefly touched on earlier on. So I say shoulders, LB and RB are shoulders, but LT and RT are actually not shoulder buttons, which I'm pretty disappointed with this. Can you see there? They're actually triggers, not shoulders, which I think is a silly move for a Fightpad, but as you can see, they're not like too bad. They don't have a lot of travel. They're not like the Mad Catz control pad where you had a literal trigger on the back. They're still buttons, but the way they press down is not a traditional shoulder movement. You can see there, it's a trigger. Can you see that there? So you got to press that down. But that said, even though they are triggers, it's not a deal breaker. It's fine. Yeah, I still get my inputs nice. I still get my special moves when I press that one, but in particular, because I mainly use, I do use these two rather than anything on this side. So my right hand is focused on button inputs and the shoulder / triggers. So it's a shame that they've made that a trigger instead of a shoulder, but it's not a deal breaker. I can live with that. It doesn't affect the quality or the potential of the pad. So very happy with the shoulders and / triggers. Very happy with the buttons. The D-pad for me, I've got to think about it. I'm not entirely sure whether it's for me yet or not. So I've got to spend more time with it. But it just feels a little too wild for me. It's a bit too active. That's probably the best way to explain it. It's very slippy, it's very sensitive. Speaking of sensitive, and this is the worst thing about the control pad, I'm just being honest, and again, it's my personal opinion. These shoulder buttons on the front, so your L shoulder and your R shoulder, are super duper sensitive. This is not a good thing with this control pad. Just being honest, I'm not trying to knock the pad. It's a great pad. I love it to bits. It looks fantastic. But these are so sensitive. If you look at that, yeah, I'll try and look. Look at the R shoulder. My fingers on that now. Do you see that? Can you hear it? I'm barely pressing, and it's going down. It's registering an input. I'm barely touching it. And in a few games where I've played Street Fighter 5 with this pad, there's a few games where I've rested my finger there and I've got like a fireball or an EX fireball on Street Fighter 5 with my character, just because I'm resting on it too much. It's crazy. That's going to be a problem. In training mode, I'm resting my finger there and I'm restarting training mode. I'm pressing that button and I don't mean to. I never got that once with the Hori. Maybe by accident sometimes, but this is far too frequent. That is a big problem for this control pad, and I'll be honest, that could be the main deal breaker for me with investing a lot of time. It's a real shame, if I'm honest, because the pad is amazing. I love the look of it, love the feel of it. D-pad I could probably adjust and get used to, but this I cannot get used to it. This is a problem for me, so be wary of that if you do look to invest. It's USB, I think it's Type B. Yeah, it's Type B. You've got the toggle there, like the Hori, to change it from. You can have those 4 buttons working, the X, Y, A, B, and all your shoulders / triggers, or you can flip the switch to the right and have the 6 buttons on the face and your 2 shoulder buttons working, which is ideal for Street Fighter 5. I think that's it, guys, if I'm honest. It's best to give an opinion in terms of the 3 pads. If I were to, not a space here to do this, but the PowerA, the 8-bit do, and I'll have to unravel it, the Hori Fightpad, if I was to pick one of the 3 pads out of these 3, let's go through the pros and cons. PowerA, the D-pad to me is iffy. It's a little too sensitive. The shoulder buttons are way too sensitive. That's the bad thing. Everything else about the pad is fine. The buttons, the feel of the pad, and the back buttons, they're fine. The 8-bit do, My opinion on that is it's too small. The X, Y and Z, which they are a throwback to the old Sega Genesis pad, Sega Mega Drive pad, but this day and age, you know, that they should have been upgraded to be the same as the ABC. Other than that, can't fault it. It's perfect in every way. Feels nice. The D-pad is amazing on this pad, really good. And I'll move these out of the way now. The Hori Fighting Commander. To me, as much as I hate to say this, it's definitely the cheaper of the three. Holding this pad now compared to the other controllers, it definitely feels as the least superior in terms of build quality. The PowerA and the 8-bit do of better quality, but the buttons, I think they're slightly bigger on the face. That is a plus. These buttons here are shoulders. That's a plus, and they have great feedback. It's just a D-pad that lets this pad down. But what's interesting is because I switched to a tip of thumb grip now over a ball of thumb, it may actually be beneficial for me using this pad. So I think I may stick to using the Hori Fighting Commander with my new grip moving forwards, but that's something I've got to figure out as time goes by. So guys, yeah, that's my opinion on the three pads. Let's go back to the PowerA. It's a fantastic pad. I'm glad that someone else gave it a shot, and I'm impressed with what they've done. But for me, the deal breaker is it's these shoulders. They're super sensitive, man. It's a problem. Whether you can open it up and maybe adjust that, you probably can. But would you want to do that on a 55 pound control pad that's just come out? Probably not. So guys, yeah, that's my opinion. That's my personal overview. I hope that the level of detail is useful for when you make your purchase. Any questions, any queries, please let me know, and I'll do my best to give you an honest response. Guys, thanks for your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching the video. Catch you soon. Take care.